Through the chair, I can confirm that we are now live streaming on YouTube and we are set to begin our meeting. I turn it over to you.
Thank you kindly. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 and I'm going to call the meeting to order. This special council meeting is scheduled for members of the public to provide comments and correspondence in regards to declaring the Komoka Community Centre as surplus property. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting of council by accessing the meeting, which will be live streamed on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel, or by visiting the link that is on our site to receive a registration link to join the meeting being held electronically. For additional information, including the meeting reservation link, please visit the middlesexcentre.ca/articles proposed new athletic training healthcare facility, Komoka. There are no additions to the agenda, and we've not received any disclosures of pecuniary interest, so we can move right to the delegations, presentations, and petitions part of the agenda. The first item up tonight will begin with a presentation from Scott Mayers, who is the Director of Community Services. And I'll turn over the floor to Mr. Mayers. There you are. The floor is yours. If you'd like to make your presentation, Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and welcome everybody on the call tonight and members of council. I have a brief presentation for the group, not only for council, but for more importantly for those on the line. If you can bear with me for about 10 to 15 minutes, I do want to provide some information just to make sure we're all on the same page with respect to this proposal, and that for anyone new joining in or tuning in who may not be fully aware of the proposal in front of us, I can provide that update to you tonight. So why is this proposal being considered? We do want to be clear that staff were approached with this proposal. As you know, staff are responsible to explore opportunities as they arrive, and if appropriate, we look to bring them forward to council for consideration. That is our ultimate job as senior leaders within the organization, hence why this proposal is in front of council tonight. Middlesex Centre also plays a role in the economic development of the community. And given that this proposal offers significant recreation, economic, and ancillary benefits to the residents and the municipality, staff is bringing this matter to council for their consideration. Just to provide a proposal overview here, this proposal would see the existing Komoka Community Centre replaced with a privately operated state-of-the-art athletic training and healthcare facility. With this proposal, 23 acres would remain as park and green space under the ownership and control of the municipality. The proposal would provide new and upgraded sports facilities and park amenities at no cost to the taxpayer. And I will go into a little bit more detail on some of these items further in the presentation. The sale of the property would generate a sizable reserve fund that would allow for community projects specifically and only in the Komoka-Kilworth area to be used. Some of the other questions, and we're going to try and address some of these more frequent questions that we have received. Were other sites explored through this process? When this proposal initially came forward, staff did explore a few properties within our inventory, one being the former Bryanston School property. We looked at perhaps some possible synergies that could be taken advantage of or leveraged with the Ilderton Arena, and of course the Komoka Community Centre. So why was the Komoka Community Centre selected? There's a few different reasons. One, aging building and capital costs. The building itself is over 40 years old and does require some major upgrades in the next 5 years. In our capital budget, we currently have $665,000 in capital cost allocated over the next 5 years. And some of the big ticket items within that are, the upper roof and lower roof, HVAC, flooring. The building is not AODA compliant, so that is something that needs to be addressed in the coming years. There's the ongoing operational costs. Operational costs are back in 2019, $70,924 with revenue of $52,934 per year, and that's been pretty consistent over the last few years. I'll share some more information on the facility usage further in the presentation, but the facility is used 56.2 hours per week of potential 130 rental hours. And this is going back to looking at 2019 pre-COVID years. We would also look to be more efficient with our municipal resources. As you know, the Komoka Wellness Center is very close by to this center, and offers many amenities within that could be better utilized and support the various programs that are currently using Komoka Community Center. The Wellness Center offers that full-time staff coverage, the accessibility. So we would look to maximize our programming there. This question's come up a lot, trying to understand the usage of the facility. Does the facility get used? Absolutely. But we wanted to share this information. This is pulling the data from our booking software over the last 3 years. Sorry, not the last 3 years, but prior to COVID, 2017, 18, and 19. As you can see from on the graph to the left, the 130 hours, available hours weekly, it's been pretty consistent over those 3 years, somewhere between 43 and 46% of the time being used. The graph on the right, we just wanted to further break this down a little bit. The 130 available hours represent the large circle. 73.8 hours of that is unrented. The hours rented, as I mentioned in the previous slide, is 56.2 hours. Of that, 56.2 is one renter. And that's our Sunday booking for 14.8 hours a week. So our second renter being 10.5. So all the other users and meetings and various things make up 30.9 hours weekly. Have staff looked at ways to increase revenue? We have often posted in wedding magazines and things in the past. That has not generated a lot through that. And of course, council looks to set reasonable rental rates each year through the fee bylaw to allow for that community access of facilities. Community centers and Middlesex Center do operate as a whole at a deficit and are subsidized by the tax levy by approximately 57%. While we're just now starting to see certain rentals being picked up post COVID-19, of course, as those rentals increase, so would the operating costs going forward. Potential KCC renters, speaking with our staff and our booking team, are no longer looking for this facility with respect to weddings or larger functions. They are seeking more banquet style facilities such as golf courses, restaurants, et cetera, for those larger events. And that's the feedback we've heard. So why is this being sold to a specific group and not offered for a public sale? Like I said at the beginning, this proposal was brought to us. We were not actively putting the facility up for sale. By selling to a specific buyer, Middlesex Center can ensure that the end use will have multiple benefits to the community. So we are in control here. We do have that option to ensure that the benefits still remain to the community. The municipality also has a bylaw that enables the sale of a property to a direct proponent based on council direction. And that's at the stage we're at right now, is to inform council and make that decision. If council declares that the Komoka Community Center is surplus property, can it be sold for other uses if this proposal does not go forward? The answer to that question is no. It would be only declared surplus for this proposal only. Can you ensure the new owner won't sell this property to someone else? Yes, Middlesex Center would have retained first right of refusal within the agreement of purchase and sale. So there is those assurances there as a municipality. How much parkland will remain under this proposal? And we wanted to update the group on this just to make sure everyone was clear, because there has been a significant amount of misinformation on what is remaining within this proposal. And so we do want to be clear here that as of right now, the total area of the Komoka Community Center and Komoka Park property is 28.9 acres. This portion, the portion included in this proposal is up to 6 acres. However, most of that already is hard surfaced for the existing Komoka Community Center and the current parking lot. As I noted earlier, the parkland remaining would fall under municipal ownership and operation, and that would be 22.9 acres. And again, I'll go into a little bit more detail here. Just wanted to share, I will go into more detail, but I do want to share just to highlight the area that we're speaking of here. That the green area that surrounds this property, that is our park boundary. That is all ownership of the municipality of Middlesex Center. This is the area that the 6 acres that we would be looking at. We've got the Railway Museum, which I'll speak to in a second. But this just highlights what would be in skin with this proposal. The amenities and features that are remaining as is in the park is the playground, and the playground will see it being upgraded to a new play structure. This has already been scheduled in our capital budget for 2023, so that work will proceed, and there'll be a brand new playground, swing bays, 2 to 5 year old and 5 to 12 play structure will be installed there. The back soccer field and the mini soccer fields towards the back will remain. The front baseball diamond and the back baseball diamond will remain. We've invested as a municipality money into that. We've had some very successful partnerships as of late with the Delco Bridge Minor Baseball Association. So that those 2 fields will remain. Ethan's Memorial Garden, this is a project that Community Services has been working very closely on with the Finesca family. That will remain, that will not be touched. Perhaps we can look at further expansion to that. That will remain. The walking trail around the park property will remain. It may get shifted a few things as we tie in the various amenities, but overall the walking trail will remain. The water tower and pumping station will also remain on the property. The Komoka Railway Museum will remain. And again, I'll speak to this a little bit further. Some of the items may need to be relocated on the property and working with our partners there. Other items that would be relocated within the Komoka Park would see the basketball court be relocated. The gazebo would be relocated, and the park washrooms would also be relocated within the park, and that would allow us to build that AODA compliant, along with the tennis and pickleball courts. I will talk to that specifically in the next few slides, but I do note anything that is being relocated within the park or other areas is at no cost to the taxpayer. This will be captured in the agreement of purchase and sale, and the cost will not be borne by the taxpayer. Some of the items that may be relocated or will be relocated to other park areas is the front soccer field. That is will need to be relocated to Kilworth Optimus Park, which that field could use an upgrade anyways. That will be relocated to Kilworth Optimus Park, and we also have a larger full-size pitch scheduled to go into that park as well. As Delco Bridge Minor Soccer has indicated, there's a need for additional park space or field space there. The mini baseball diamond, we feel that likely can stay, but if need be, can also be reallocated or relocated, to Kilworth Optimus Park, as we have we are working on the phase 2 site plan with that park, and we do have an allowance for that field if need be. One item we're also considering that's not on this list to add to this amenity is a potential dog park, and I'll speak to that a little bit further. So I wanted to just walk through with everybody here, again, so we're understanding. I'm going to start kind of left to right here. Of course, we've got our water tower and our pumping station. Everything would remain here. Existing parking lot would remain. This front baseball diamond would remain. Ethan's Memorial Garden would remain with the trails surrounding it. We also, this is one area we are considering but as potential dog park location, still to be determined, but there is some potential there. This area to the northeast we did initially think that could be our relocation for our front soccer field. However, it's been confirmed with Upper Thames Conservation Area that this is a meadowlark habitat, so it is an endangered species habitat. So this will remain as green space, naturalized, untouched. The back baseball diamond that has seen some significant upgrades. We have a new scoreboard going in to honor one of the late members of the Delco Bridge Minor Baseball Association. That will remain. The mini soccer fields, the others that we call it the back soccer field, that too would remain. This is another area we're considering as a potential dog park. Again, that'll be a separate project that we'll have to do some feasibility studies on further, but there is some potential there. The Railway Museum would remain at the Queen Street front entrance, recognizing the new pickleball courts. There'd be 2 tennis courts and 2 brand new separate standalone pickleball courts in the development. We know that the track and the shed, the program space would have to be relocated, and we are happy to have that conversation with our partners there, and I'll talk to that in a little bit later in the presentation here. With respect to the Komoka Railway Museum, staff did meet with 2 members of the museum executive very early on in this proposal, as we needed to understand the impact and their needs with respect to this potential proposal. And there was a number of meetings that took place with those 2 members. Overall, there was genuine support for this proposal through those discussions. One of which that we've identified even before this proposal came forward is there is an expired land use agreement that does need to be addressed. Whether this proposal goes forward or not, that is something that will need to be addressed, and we're happy to do that and look for the long-term plan for the Railway Museum to stay where it is. We saw this proposal as part of those conversations with the Railway Museum. We saw this proposal as an opportunity to formally set out a long-term vision and opportunity to provide much needed funds to this group. So with funds being set aside as part of the sale, as part of the reserve fund, we saw this as a potential cash injection for this group to, again, provide that cash flow needed to complete some projects that have been lingering, and I know that they've been wanting to do for quite some time. Staff are committed to continue working closely with our partners. We look at creative ways. We understand the importance of the railway track. We do want to work with that group and see how we can effectively do that on the balance of the property and still make it a worthwhile program, and again, a longer term vision for this area. Other users of the community center, of course, staff are committed to continue working to seek positive, creative, long-term solutions to meet their needs as well. A question that's popped up from time to time is won't the proposed ice rink compete with the Komoka Wellness Center and the Ilderton Arenas? I can tell you that the Wellness Center, if we had a 3rd pad today, we could probably fill it. We are constantly have ice requests coming in. We now run those 2 ice pads year round. We do not take them out in the wintertime. So there's definitely room for another facility, albeit perhaps a private one, that will ease the capacity and provide some capacity for a lot of our minor sport groups. As our minor sport users can attest, there's just simply not enough ice time for them. So this would allow to open up some ice time that would help our minor sports get more ice time in Middlesex Center. The process and timeline. So I'll just briefly go through this. April 6th, the intent was to bring surplus property report. Of course, as you know, council deferred that so we could have a little bit more time to hear from the residents and digest this proposal. The Community Services Advisory Committee was engaged last night to get their input. We're here right now at April 27th to listen to you, the residents, and understand your questions and concerns as council considers this. May 4th, council will look to consider this decision and to declare the site as surplus property. There's still a number of tasks and things that need to happen beyond that. It's not a done deal at that point. It allows us to move to the next part of this proposal. So if approved on May 4th, there'd be some rezoning changes and amendments that would be required. If that's further approved, council would then consider into entering an agreement of purchase of sale with the proponents, and that's when the financial details would be presented as we work through those negotiations. And if that is approved in the summer or fall, then we would look to process and finalize any site plans. The developer would look for those building permits, legislative processes, etc., for a potential fall/winter construction start. But there's a number, like I said, there's a number of tasks that need to be completed through that. So just in summary, this proposal was brought forward to council consideration as it offers a new and improved recreational amenity, updated indoor and outdoor recreation amenities, both at the new facility and in Komoka Park. It also allows local healthcare services and brings state-of-the-art physiotherapy, sports medicine, and allied healthcare services. We feel it's fiscally responsible as maintenance costs of the current Komoka Community Center are escalating with major building components needing replacement. We feel that it's no longer beneficial from an operational and financial viewpoint moving forward, and needs to be a long-term vision for the site does need to be addressed. Community investment funds from the sale of this property would be reinvested back into the Komoka-Kilworth community by way of a dedicated reserve fund. This will allow for a number of projects locally in Komoka and Kilworth that could either be expedited or perhaps new projects that would come forward from our service clubs or residents, and that the funds would be there to, again, continue to build our community in Komoka-Kilworth. And again, staff feel it's a economic investment as it does represent a considerable economic investment in Middlesex Center, bringing new jobs and increasing our tax base. We do have a detailed FAQ that is posted to our website. This is the link to the site. We'll put it up in the chat box. So if those who have not yet had a chance to read it, we'll get that up for you. And at the end of this meeting, we will look to post this presentation. We will get that posted tomorrow on the project page as well, so people can go back and review this presentation. And thank you.
And thank you for that presentation. So now that we finished this presentation, we're going to hear a delegation from Dr. Chris Chant before proceeding to members of the public who have registered to delegate. And I see he's coming on now. Good evening, Dr. Chant. If you'd like to make your presentation, the floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I won't take up too much time. I asked to speak tonight not to discuss why I think naming the Komoka Community Center as surplus is a good idea. Ultimately, that decision is not mine. What I would like to do is address some misunderstanding and misinformation about what my group hopes to do if we are able to proceed with the planned project at this site. Before I get into those points, I would like to acknowledge members of the local community who have voiced their opinion on this topic, and specifically the way in which they have done so. I have read the letters that were sent to the clerk, as well as many posts and comments online. I would like to thank those individuals for not personally attacking myself, my group, or our planned project. It has not gone unnoticed that most of you have focused your attention on the Komoka Community Center. In fact, many have even voiced support of our project, just not at the proposed location. The first misunderstanding I would like to address is the idea that we are opening a private medical clinic. This is not at all true. Anyone in the community will be able to book appointments with the sports medicine physicians with no referral necessary, and those services will be covered by OHIP. As a specialist orthopedic surgeon, you need a referral to see me. However, my services are also covered by OHIP. I believe the confusion came from my delegation to council in February when I referred to the physiotherapy clinic as being private. This is how the vast majority of physiotherapy clinics work. They offer services that are paid either directly by the patient or through third-party insurance. The same way it works when you go to the dentist. There are very few OHIP-covered physiotherapy clinics in the province. Second, I would like to make sure the public knows that we have a construction plan outlined to allow most, if not all, outdoor amenities currently on site to be used throughout all of the summer months this year. If we can move forward at this location, and I really hope we can, I am excited about the prospect of working together, not just with the municipality, but also with community groups, including the Optimist Club. Although this is not a formal public-private partnership, I believe there is the potential for a lot of synergy, and together, I think we can achieve goals and provide services that neither group would be able to achieve on their own. My group has several ideas and plans for both community fundraising and charity work, and I believe that together with such community groups, we can be very successful in those endeavors. This facility will also provide several new jobs within the community, including full-time, part-time, and student opportunities. Finally, I would like to say that I get it. I understand. I'm from small town Eastern Ontario. Most of my extended family are dairy farmers in Eastern Ontario. I volunteered at the bingos in our local community center to raise money for local baseball teams. I set up and took down the tables and chairs for several of my cousins' stag and does. I worked the toonie bar with the volunteer fire department. I danced my 10-year-old butt off at my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, and then helped set up the cheese trays and cold meat in squares at midnight. I understand the memories and historical importance of a community center like this. I hope that my group can provide a much needed upgrade to a building that has clearly served this community well over the last 5 decades. We hope to do so by adding more and newer amenities at no cost to the community so that future generations can create new memories for themselves. Thank you.
And thank you for that presentation. Now, as far as the next piece, we have a number of people who've registered to speak. The members of the public that have registered to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide their comments. In keeping again with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would like to remind everyone who's participating tonight to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. The purpose of this evening's delegation is for council to receive feedback on the proposal from members of the public. Individual questions put forth during the delegations are not going to be addressed immediately by staff during the delegations themselves, unless a council member requests that staff provide further comments or a clarification. After you've finished speaking or presenting your content, members of the council may ask questions. After all of the members of the public who have registered to speak tonight have been given an opportunity to address council, I will call for any additional speakers who may wish to provide comments, and I ask that you would use the raise hand feature at that time to indicate that you wish to speak. Following all of the speakers, staff will comment on next steps regarding this matter to conclude our meeting. So I'm going to start with our first delegate. That is Mr. Paul Houghton, please. And I think he's coming on. Oh, no, that's Middlesex Center. There we go. Good evening, Mr. Houghton. The floor is yours. You're on mute, though. You're still on mute, Mr. Houghton. There you go. Not at all.
Yeah. Maybe I was better on mute. But anyway, Paul Houghton, 200 Delaware Street, North Komoka. Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council and staff. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Those lyrics by Joni Mitchell 50 years ago reflect what the community is feeling about losing parkland to support a business venture. I object to the Komoka Community Center being declared surplus and selling off 4 acres. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're clear as a bell.
Thank you. I object to the Komoka Community Center being declared surplus and selling off of 4 acres of parkland. I do not object to this new business venture. I object to it where it is being located. The staff report said the park was the ideal property for this business. I would say it is also an ideal property for the existing community center and parkland. With all due respect to the deputy mayor, he was quoted as saying that it is not true that we are losing parkland. Maybe 4 acres of green space means nothing to him, but it means a lot to the community. Mr. Mayors, I can't believe that you just said most of the area is already hard packed. Please take another look at that map. Reading through the answers to the FAQs, it seems more like this business is coming to Middlesex Center to primarily serve the community. It is not. Investors are creating a business to serve professional elite athletes. It is not being built because the community needs its services. We already have local physiotherapists. The hockey community is well served with 3 indoor ice pads. Just FYI, London has 1 municipal indoor pad for every 38,000 residents. Middlesex Center has 1 indoor pad for every 6,000 residents. As the investors made no indication that they were seeking to build on municipal land at their presentation, it seems the idea to tear down the community center and sell off parkland came from Middlesex Center. There is no public knowledge as to what has been going on between the developer and staff. The community sees the staff are trying very hard to sell the business venture to them. The community is not buying the pitch as to having to use parkland to make this happen. The report indicated that staff reached out to the investors. It appears it was more of an embrace. The non-financial benefits of this business to the community are not dependent on location. This means that all the non-financial benefits used to justify the staff recommendation need to be removed from the decision-making process. Unless somebody wants to correct me, and I think Dr. Chant just did, these investors will build their business elsewhere if council turns the staff site recommendation down. The first financial benefit used to justify the staff recommendation is that selling the community center will eliminate operational losses and future cash investments. This is true. However, the attempt to declare the community center is not because the center is not being used by the community or is structurally unsound. It is being declared surplus because it has to be declared surplus to make this room for business. The community center is collateral damage to obtaining the additional 4 acres to build this business. Let's not waste time in talking about how much the community center costs the community. Let's talk about how it can better serve the community. Its financial position is not unique. Getting the 6 acres to build on is the prize. Anything standing in the way of getting this land will be destroyed. The remaining financial benefit identified is funding the dedicated reserve fund. Selling of public-owned assets for cash is normally the action of a cash-strapped municipality that cannot raise enough tax dollars to meet their expenditures. Based on the tax levy for Komoka Kilworth, that cannot be the reason to sell. Another reason to sell off municipal land is to get cash for projects that can be touted as accomplishments without raising the tax levy, and in turn, avoid the scrutiny of the public. For example, a portion of the $3.6 million from the sale of the land behind the Wellness Center is being used for the 2-story office renovation in Coldstream. Just a guess, but I believe that the plan is likely to fund the $1.6 million civic square from the sale of this parkland, or at least contribute to it. The community would rather have the community center and parkland over the civic square or anything else, if given the choice. Parkland should be considered untouchable and never sold for cash. Past councils have felt that way for years, and that is why the property is here today for sale. It is political trickery to sell off assets to avoid tax levy increases. Sale of public assets can only go on till all saleable assets are gone. Stop selling off municipal land unless there are no other options for survival. It is apparent that some staff and members of council assume that the zoning change is a done deal. This lowers the public confidence in the zoning approval process and puts into question its integrity and value to the community. This building is not even close to being compatible and consistent with the character of the neighborhood, and the proposed zoning change will be very vulnerable to being overturned at the appeal process. To move the proposed business to another site, we need at least one of 2 things to happen. The investors decide to build on another site, or 4 councilors turn the staff recommendation down and support another site for this bill. A message to Dr. Chant and his investors. We know you are aware of the level of opposition to putting your business on parkland. In the likely event that the proposal went ahead on parkland, you will be left with many years of negativity about how your business cost our community center and parkland and brought commercial zoning to a residential neighborhood. You have to know when starting a new business, you are much better having the community behind you than against you. The community does not accept that this is the only viable building site. It is likely being chosen because of the speed to market. There is a lot of land around the Wellness Center that is waiting to be zoned commercial. It is ironic that your business is focused on athletes. By building on parkland, you are taking away amenities from our youngest athletes to play at the local park. Every kid likes to ride his bike to practice. Do us all a favor and please find another site. To council, your no vote against this location would tell all of Middlesex Center that you recognize that parkland and community centers play an important role in the current and future community, that putting a commercial development in the middle of a residential area is contradictory to good planning, that it is unfair to bring a year of construction, dust, noise, and turmoil to the users of the park, and is especially bad timing in light of the last few years and having to deal with COVID and its impact on physical and mental health. Your no vote would also tell all of Middlesex Center that constructing a building of this mass and size in the middle of the park will have a negative impact on the openness and enjoyment of the park. And most importantly, your no vote would tell all of the Middlesex Center voters that you listen and act on public comments, and that the needs of a single business should not be given priority of the needs and wishes of the majority of the residents. This is a staff recommendation that was created with no public direction from you. I am confident that you as councilors know what parkland and community centers mean to the residents of your ward and the community at large. You know that if there was a recommendation to close the community center or sell off parkland in your ward, that your residents would be just as upset as the residents of Komoka Kilworth. The residents expect their councillor to protect all community centers and parkland, regardless of what the ward they are located in. I'm pretty sure that you know that this business is not dependent on acquiring municipal owned property. To you, I say, don't drink the Kool-Aid that is being served on this proposal. Please stand together and support Councillor Cates with a no against this location, just as she would if this was happening in your ward. At the last council meeting, one of you said they could not hang their name on a planning recommendation. I ask all of you, please do not hang your name on this recommendation. Council, you did not start this fire, but you can certainly put it out. Thank you for having this meeting and allowing me the opportunity to speak. I would also like to thank all the Komoka Kilworth residents who took the time to send in their comments to the municipality. Special thanks to the clerk and his staff for going above and beyond to get all the comments recorded for council. The community thanks Dr. Chant for considering Middlesex Center, but Dr. Chant, please find another site and the community will give you a warm embrace. Peace to Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Houghton. And our next speaker is Mr. Paul Minielli.
Okay, you're on. Just taking you.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Minielli. We can hear you.
Okay, can't see me. I'm not sure how to turn it on. Madam Mayor, sorry?
No, I was just saying you can go ahead if you like.
Okay. Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors and fellow residents of Middlesex Center, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. It's going to be really hard to follow Paul Houghton. I do not support the decision to declare the Komoka Community Center surplus and the sale of additional parkland for development. Michael DeLulo claims the residents of not understanding the full scope of this project. I would suggest that it is him that does not understand the scope of this project and its impact on the community as a whole. He has not considered the ramifications of decimating the sense of history, volunteerism, and sport this community has worked so hard to preserve and improve. The full scope is that we lose significant portion of parkland, a community center, sports facilities, green space, and railway heritage for a commercial for-profit entity that will charge us for the use of any of their private sport facilities. The full scope is that the Township of Middlesex Center has distorted the facts quoting the size of the park as larger than the usable space by including fenced-off areas for the water tower, reservoir, and pumping station. The proposal would in fact sell off the largest, most usable 25% of space for community events in the park close to the existing building, with 2 fenced ball diamonds limiting the accessible area in the remainder of the park. Seniors will not be inclined to walk to the far reaches of the park for community celebrations. The full scope is that the Township of Middlesex Center is really declaring the second most rented community center of 5 surplus in order to facilitate selling the property at a price we suspect is well below the current market value and up to 6 acres of parkland to attract this business. The full scope is that the neighbors living close to the park moved there for the advantages parkland adds to a neighborhood, such as the peaceful quiet, the ability to raise children in a safe, active environment, the ability to access sports, skill development programs, and the ability to exercise at will. The full scope is that this commercial for-profit business will not bring any added value to Komoka and area residents by building it on this parkland, as opposed to any other commercial development land, which would be more appropriate for a building of this size. The full scope of this project is that the Wellness Center does not serve the same purpose as the Komoka Community Center. The full scope is that at the same time as you tell us nearly 10,000 more residents are joining us in the smallest ward, you're taking away parkland. It just doesn't make any sense. The full scope is that you would be demolishing one of only 2 sport-capable community centers that many individuals use for age-appropriate fitness and activity. Mayor DeVete, how can you live, work, and play, as you said in March, when you are prepared to take away our community center, sports fields, and playgrounds? I guess you are addressing everywhere but Komoka. In April, while thanking volunteers for their contributions in the Komoka Kilworth Delaware Villager, you are planning to demolish the home of the Komoka Kilworth Optimists just as they celebrate their 50th anniversary. Dr. Chant's rehabilitation facility might be a wonderful addition to Middlesex Centre if carefully placed on a commercial corridor, just not in the heart of a beloved park and subdivision. I say Michael DeLullo doesn't have any understanding of what a community is made of. It's not the bricks and mortar showpieces, it's the heart and soul that holds people together. It's the respect for neighborhoods and citizens that make up the larger community. It's respecting the efforts of volunteers that give of themselves to enrich their community. It's preserving our rich history to remind us of who we are. As for Deputy Mayor Brennan, you say we are not losing parkland. How is it possible that a facility and parking lot that covers the largest open area in our park is not a loss of parkland? We will lose some of our sports facilities completely and have to pay for others that were free. How does that benefit our community? Mr. DeLullo never reached out to the community or those of us visibly opposed. The extremely short timeline and shifting proposal claims suggest that the township is either concealing their true motives or is not interested in public input. Public information sessions to disclose or receive feedback were never offered in a manner respectful of the process a project of this magnitude should have received. The arguments that Michael DeLullo and Deputy Mayor Brennan offer just don't pass the smell test. Proper planning should ensure commercial enterprises should be directed to be built in areas designed for the traffic, noise, and light pollution, not because it's a convenient way to eliminate another issue Middlesex Centre created by refusing to do the necessary upkeep on one of their buildings to keep it viable, then claiming it doesn't bring in enough revenue. Find Dr. Chant an appropriate piece of commercial property for his state-of-the-art facility, preserve and enhance our park, heritage, and sports facilities, and the township and Komoka all win. If you are truly interested and are listening to the people, council must vote no to declaring the Komoka Community Center and 4 additional acres surplus and selling off the heart of our Komoka Park. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Minnelli. I will now go to Mr. Milmans.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. I'm
You may
sorry
go
to play.
ahead if you'd like, Mr. Milmans.
Okay. Members of council, I'm here to speak to you about the Komoka Community Center and Komoka Park and to indicate it is not surplus and a very valuable asset in the community and for the people in the community, and it must stay that way. I have with me today 4 publications that have gathered a lot of local history. These have been priceless in reminding and reminiscing about our community. The Lobo Township Sketches, The Heritage of Lobo, Golden Anniversary of the Optimist District, 1924-1974. 20 years of community service, 1972-1992, the Optimist Club of Komoka Kilworth. And the common in those is the history that the people in the village have created. We have been a resident in Komoka since 1974, and our children have attended Parkview and have grown up knowing and using the Komoka Park and Community Center. I'm an Optimist Life member and have been a member of the Komoka Kilworth Club since moving here in '74. I have volunteered in many ways in Komoka Kilworth and also was employed for over 13 years with Lobo Township and then over 8 years in Middlesex Centre. I am quite familiar with the area, going close to 50 years. In all these years, I have never seen any mention from the public that any part of the Komoka Park and Komoka Community Center was surplus. I want to bring to your attention some of the Komoka Park and Community Center history as I have learned it over the years. First of all, Komoka in the early 1900s was a settlement that was growing. and Middlesex County enacted a bylaw to designate Komoka as a police village. With that, Komoka was still under the governance and taxation of Lobo Township, but it also had the right to elect police village trustees and to levy a small extra mill rate on all properties in the village to cover the cost of specific localized services. This police village status remained for 75 years, at which time the then trustees requested their status be revoked. Sometime in the early 1960s, a developer started residential homes in the west side of the Thames River, and this became known as Kilworth Heights. The residents of Komoka and Kilworth became a close community as they shared the same post office, schools, local stores, and the Komoka Park. When we moved to Komoka in 1974, the Komoka Park consisted of a large baseball field and a small diamond, some playground equipment, and a washroom and concession buildings. I understand the play equipment at the park came from the Komoka Public School SS number 1 that was closed when Parkview School was opened in 1965. The old school property was bought by Bill Tunks. The rest of the lands around the Komoka Park was open space with remnants of previous use of gravel extraction and a dump. There was also an area that was still being used as a dump as an active household waste in the early 1970s. As an initiative by the Komoka Village trustees to have oversight of the Komoka Park, the small park that they had, a group of residents were appointed or volunteered as members of the then called Komoka Community Center Board. These people took on the maintenance of the park and included the likes of Tom Edmonds, Bill Tunks, and Joe Carroll, often volunteering their time and their business resources. In 1972, after the Optimist Club of Komoka was formed, the club took on the initiative to have a community center in Komoka. In cooperation with the village trustees, the Community Center Board, and Lobo Township, who are the owners of the land and who would own the community center, a site was selected at the Komoka Park. The Optimists proudly erected a large sign, site of the new community center. The new community center initiative had the full support from the community residents and other community groups like Women's Institute, Community Club, Scouts and Guides, and everyone else. A partnership between the parties took on the fundraising for the new community center. This included provincial and Ontario grants, Lobo Parkland Fund, solicitation and donations from the individuals and businesses across the whole of the township, and many special events organized by the Optimist Club. After more than 5 years of planning and fundraising, the construction plans for a community center was prepared, and Lobo Township called for tenders in the summer of 1977. Unfortunately, when the tenders were opened, they were much higher than estimated, so a shortfall in fundraising. The design engineer was asked to work with the low bidder to see what changes could be made to allow the project to proceed. After that review and some changes made, there was still an $8,000 shortfall. Not a lot of money in today's dollars, but I can tell you a lot of money at that time. Over the past days, I've been reading the minutes of the Optimist Club meetings of October and November 1977, which had recorded the progress on the tenders and the way the Optimists could cover this shortfall. And this included meeting with the bank for taking out personal loans by Optimist members. As we all now know, the extra fundraising was successful and construction started. The reduced cost also included that the community assist in installing the weeping bed for the septic system. I remember well the hot July weekend in 1978 when about a dozen volunteers worked with Blue Con Construction to put in the weeping bed in the area that is now the soccer field behind the community center, and which is in the current township proposal would be surplus and sold, still with the weeping bed tile in the ground. It is unfortunate to mention, but there was never an official opening organized by Lobo Township Council to recognize the community's effort to make the Komoka Community Center happen. Along with the leadership and hard work by the community in constructing the community center, there were also many other projects that at the Komoka Park that were undertaken. The tennis courts were contracted by the Optimist and fully funded by the club and provincial Ontario grant. It was 40 years later when Middlesex Center did a full renovation of the courts with a new asphalt base and tennis surface. The current township staff proposal would make this facility surplus and be sold just a couple of years later. The Optimists redid the original pre-1967 baseball infield and dugouts, all by volunteers and contractors paid by the Optimists. The original baseball field lights were replaced and paid for by the Optimists. They were annual spring part cleanup and repair workpiece and similar fall winterizing. There were workpiece for replacing the original play equipment and paid for by the Optimist. This has since been removed for the water storage building. The Optimist constructed and paid for the Optavilion. The Optimist constructed the 50-foot slide on the former hill separating the park from the adjacent gravel extraction area. This was later removed by the township. The Optimist constructed a 1 kilometer track around the park, which included 11 professionally fitness stations. This was part of the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics Getting Communities Active campaign. The track was partially removed a number of years ago for the construction of the Komoka water storage facility. Ironically, part of the replacement asphalt walkway that there is there now was installed and donated by Middlesex Paving and Maintenance Company. This company placed the first asphalt pad for the tennis courts in 1977, or I believe maybe even 75. They did these tracks fairly recent, which will be a casualty if Middlesex Center staff recommendation to sell the property is approved. Some of the track will be removed. The 4-bay storage shed was constructed and paid for by the Optimists along with Winterior grant. This was shared at 2 bays for the township. They benefited because it was on their property. 1.5 bays by the Optimists and half bay by the then Komoka Community Club. This is a convenient and accessible place to store equipment and supplies used at the park and the community center, especially for the various events hosted by the Optimist Club. This will disappear if the facility is sold. The Optimists purchased and donated a small Ford deck mower with wagon for park maintenance back in the early 1980s. This was stored in the shed. The Optimists undertook the development of the large baseball diamond or field. This included lights and dugouts. This project required an engineering and environmental study to monitor on the possible methane or other gases coming from the land's use of a dump and landfill site. Quite a sizable undertaking and investment by the Optimists. The community also continued to make improvements at the community center itself. The full sound system was purchased by the Optimists. The basketball backboards were installed. Installing of the front sign, which was a shared cost between the Lobo and the Optimist. Erecting the large flagpole and replacing whenever needed the flag. The initial flags were large and the pole took a lot of volunteers. I believe it was 50 foot. But it was looked after every 6 months or when needed. It sure looked a lot better than when you look at it today. Renovation of the Optimist to the small office room, by the Optimist to the small office room to make it suitable for the OPP Community Policing Office, to make sure that it could not be broken into. Replacing the accordion-style sliding doors from the main hall and from the small office to the meeting room, which was with solid brick to reduce the noise conflict between the users in the different rooms. Purchased 100 new chairs, 10 round tables, 8 boardroom-style meeting chairs for the meeting room. Installed the pot lights in the meeting room. There was a time that Lobo Township required a group wanting to make additions to the community center and park to then also make an additional cash contribution of 10% of that addition value. This contribution was placed in the facilities reserve fund to assist with the future cost and repairs regarding addition. Again,
Wildman, I'm sorry, we've gone over time. Do you want to wrap up, please?
I'm sorry if you're going to cut me off, then I cannot finish this, and I am very disappointed.
I'm sorry, I have to be fair to everyone, sir. I cannot. We have distributed the timelines, and I have been alerted that we are Well, we're quite a bit over now. If we could, okay, if you choose not to wrap up, I'm sorry for that too then. I'll have to go to the next person then.
And so the first presenter was able to take whatever minutes that they wanted.
He took 6:32 to 6:42.
I mean the report by staff.
Delegations are 10 minutes.
I'm not going to debate. I left it there. I have a lot more details that would be beneficial.
Mr. Jonkens, Rob Jonkens is the next registered speaker.
Hi, guys. How is everybody?
The floor is yours, Rob. We're well. If you'd like to make your presentation.
Oh, it's not much of a presentation, but we'll see what we can do here. I just got to get you're all over my screen here, Ina. It's distracting. I had everybody else's here. Now I've only got you on my screen. I don't know what the heck I did here. How do I get back to everybody? Oh,
I'm a techno idiot. I'm sorry. I can't help you with that.
No problem. Okay. All right. Well, I didn't make it here. Are we starting now? The 10 minutes starts now? Perfect. Okay. So not that I'll need that long, but I didn't unfortunately catch all of Scott's. Hello, Scott. How are you? I know a few of you guys in person. I know Sue and I know Michael. We've had some emails in the past. I'm sure you remember. I definitely do. And I think you might owe me one. But anyways, so I heard Scott mention a dog park, and that was new to me. I haven't dove into this in the short amount of time we've had, but I know it was potential. I don't think you said it was for sure, but that's just another bad idea. More cars to come into an area that's a residential area. Dog parks, look anywhere they are. They're always tucked out of the way somewhere. So that's just not a good idea. Anyways, that's not my focus. So with this park, obviously you can tell I'm opposed to this. We live across the street from the parking lot. So this commercial zoning change is going to go 30 feet from my property. Okay, so it doesn't fit in the neighborhood at all. We have a side lot of our yard there that, you know, if this is going to turn into stuff, maybe we'll put a high rise there. I don't know. Like, we want to live here and enjoy this community, but if that goes in there, like, we're going to roll up our sleeves here. Anyways, the ball diamond of the land that's going to remain for the parkland. So the center, the heart is going to be cut out of that shape of the parkland. For anyone who's looked at, anyone who knows the shape, the heart is gone. You know, the center is eliminated. And what's left is the scatterings around the outside where, okay, there's more, but there's a ball diamond, a baseball diamond, and a soccer field. Those don't get used unless there's a sport going on. So as far as the people that go to the park and go up there continually all the time, we've been here 10 years. We've watched people go up forever. People, young families, it's a steady stream over there. And when you do put in this commercial entity with light pollution, I'd love to have a one-on-one with Dr. Chant too. I'm going to look him up just to get some answers on some stuff. But with light pollution, I know I sent this in. You know, right now there's light pollution from the tennis courts and from the ball diamonds, but it's only in the summer, and you know that it's at certain times. If there's going to be a business going in, what are the hours going to be? Is there going to be lights throughout the parking lot that are always there, always, you know, creating a, you know, bright area there? Tennis courts. How much did the tennis courts cost to be resurfaced? I would love to know this number. I want to know this number. I know you can't answer me right now, but I want that number. I want to know how much it cost to resurface the tennis courts 2 years ago that are now going to be destroyed, but we get one tennis court back on a private commercial entity that we can, you know, rent and use and everything else, when we're already paying for the two that are there. We're already paying for those. So that's one thing. My kids play tennis a lot, so that's really gross to me that, you know, and being able to use it in the winter is not a balance for that. A few more questions I have here. Why are we looking at this park? Why aren't we looking at the Ilderton Fairgrounds? Why not Delaware? Why not why aren't we talking about Kilworth, where all the Londoners use Weldon Park that we pay for, and the Londoners all come out to Weldon Park? Why don't we use that? Why don't we talk about some of those things instead of taking away our tennis courts here? Why was there not an MOU done before deeming this, attempting to deem this as surplus? Why is there a commercial business going into a residential neighborhood? I can't believe any of you can sit there and seriously look at this and say it's a good idea. Michael, come, let's walk the property. I'd love to show you the area. I'd love to. It's absolutely terrible. So, and I keep hearing that the municipality keeps hammering that the development will bring medical facilities. Essentially, it's a private clinic, right? Like it's private. We can go in, as he just said, for physio, and it's covered under OHIP. I'm sure most of us go to London for that. Fowler Kennedy, there's all kinds of facilities like that. Komoka, this is not for the locals. This is not for the locals. And I would also like to know what the residents, where this monstrosity, this disgusting, I'll use that word, this disgusting monstrosity is going to be put right there in this subdivision. What do the people who live here gain from that? You know what we gain? We gain a boatload more cars on a 40-kilometer-an-hour zone that already has all kinds of traffic issues with speed. You guys have put up signs like during the pandemic here for traffic calming measures. It's a 40-kilometer-an-hour zone. There's not even a line painted on the road, which I'm fine with because it's a country town, right? Right, Sue? You know where I mean. But how about this amount of external additional cars that are going to be brought to this neighborhood? Has there been a traffic study done? I would really like to know the answer to that as well. I would like to know how many additional cars are coming into our neighborhood. I'm sure there better have been one of those done at some point, or else we shouldn't really be having this conversation. So I'd love to know that. What else we got for questions here? How much of a deposit did this developer have to pay to cause this type of uproar? All of us sitting here on a Wednesday night, amongst the council and community. I certainly hope he had to give some kind of substantial amount of money for this to even be looked at. And if he didn't have to do that, I think that should be changed. Anyone should have to give you guys some money to have this conversation. So I really hope that happened. And if it's non-existent, that's worrisome to me that we're all doing this on our time. What else we got here before I run out of time? Again, what does the community gain from this proposal? I didn't hear one thing that we gain. I heard some fluff. I heard some moving numbers. I heard we lose a basketball diamond. It's going to Kilworth. We lose our tennis courts, but we can pay and rent them. Well, I'll just tell my kids that. Yeah, no problem. That makes great sense. Makes great sense. We've lived here for 10 years. We know that with our children being in their early teen years, they've used these parks regularly. We watched everybody use them. It's just a real travesty. I can only imagine, like, as I sit here and I look that way, that's where it'll be. I can probably go out this window behind me and see the monstrosity of lights, the front, which I've got right here. Got all the stuff right here. Got all the drawings, I know exactly what it'll look like. It's going to be brutal. My background for everybody, I am a real estate agent. I shouldn't be acting as crazy as I am, but I am a passionate guy, and that's fine. So I understand building. I understand construction. I used to build high rises for 10 years. I built high rises all over Southwestern Ontario. I understand how things get built. Okay. And this right here is so sad. And I didn't even know any of the history that Paul Milemans. It's too bad he got cut off. I understand you have time. I get that. He does go on a little bit, but he had some great stories that I heard in the last few days. What an incredible, incredible history. So I thank all of you for bringing up some of the history that I was unaware of. I was just here for 10 years using this property, appreciating it, loving the community. And now, it's just, you see me laugh because that's about all I can do when I think of this whole thing in its entirety. So in closing, I guess I would love to hear back on some of those questions. I don't know. I know this is being recorded. I have some big questions that I did repeat. Traffic study, I want to know. Some others, I want to know the cost of the tennis courts resurfacing back in 2020. Derek was our counselor at that point. Maybe he's involved in that. Scott might know. and then anything else, because the fact that this has come through in such a short amount of time is, on the back end of a pandemic. Why are there so many big decisions going in? Why are we doing this on Zoom? The US just declared today the pandemic's over. I know we're not in the US, but why is an issue this big on Zoom? It's embarrassing that we all have to hide behind our computers, because I guarantee you guys would have a full house, just like the first time we tried to put that apartment over there, which I heard is in the hopper again now, right? So these big issues, it really makes it hard to trust staff, employees, everyone, when we seem to find out about it like 10 days ago. And I know how municipalities work. I know how builders work. So it's just unfortunate, and it's slightly embarrassing. It really is. We moved to this community for a lot of good reasons. A lot of people here that care about a lot of things, and the people that live close, Sue's at the other end of this street. She's at the other end. She sees it a little bit, but we see it. We're in the trenches here. And I would encourage all of you to come here, and not just for Canada Day, Scott, not just to, grab your truck and grab something from the back room or whatever. Go walk those neighborhoods, walk a couple of streets around there, take your truck and drive through some of those neighborhoods. Go there on a Saturday, go there on a weeknight, go watch the families walking up there, watch these guys. It is not going to be what it is once that's gone. It'll be, right now, it's a quiet corner of paradise. It won't be after that. So I'm good, Ina. Catch you later. We're good. Have a good day, guys.
That's exactly right on time. Next, I have Mr. David Klein. No, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Mr. Nakamura. I misspoke. I'm sorry. You are next. The floor is yours. Yes, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ron Nakamura, and I've been a proud resident of Komoka Kilworth for the past 11 years. I'm actively involved in this community through various volunteer activities, and I'm also a volunteer treasurer of both the Komoka Kilworth Optimist Club and Chant Komoka. I add my voice to the many who are in opposition to declaring our Komoka Community Center as surplus property, with the intention of selling it to a developer who will demolish it and replace it with a private business. As a concerned citizen, I wanted to do what I could to see if the community also felt the same way as I do. That is why I started a petition to save our Komoka Community Center, asking people to sign if you want the Middlesex Center Council to vote no on designated the Komoka Community Center as surplus property, and instead focus on what is required to sustain the building and property for the future. The results have been fantastic, with 1,447 signatures, 1,172 online, and 275 more on a paper copy in only 10 days. I have submitted these documents by email to the clerk and council. I received feedback yesterday from the Middlesex Center clerk that online petitions are not valid because they do not have signatures or street addresses. However, I would argue that the online petition is valid because of the following special circumstances. Number one, we are still in the midst of a pandemic, as evidenced by even this council meeting being held online and not live. Number two, as a result of these same public health safety concerns, I did not go door to door to get signatures and felt that the only safe way was to do this online. Number three, we were given short notice on this whole issue, and the fastest way to get support was through an online petition. And finally, number four, to sign the online petition, the signee must give their name, email, and postal code with the understanding that this will be made public. By the way, the 275 paper signatures that were obtained occurred at 3 public outdoor events. Ironically, all were held at the Komoka Community Center. Based on comments received from the online petition, the following are the reasons that the community is objecting to the designation of the Komoka Community Center as surplus property. Number one, heart. The Komoka Community Center has been the vital heart of our community for over 40 years. And when you remove the heart, the community will die. It is the only facility in our area that has that welcoming community feeling as soon as you walk into the building. By comparison, the Wellness Center feels like a hockey arena. Number two, unique. The Komoka Community Center has a unique combination of functions allows it to host a variety of events that are attended by thousands of people annually, such as Canada Day, Breakfast with Santa, bingos, Gateway Community Church, various indoor craft and market fairs, community dinners, fundraisers, private functions, and most recently, an Easter egg hunt. These events cannot be held elsewhere, as no other facility in our community has a combination of a large hall gym with a kitchen, a bar, other meeting rooms, storage for barbecue equipment, and a large green space that the community, Komoka Community Center has. Number 3, all ages. The Komoka Community Center is designed for events for people of all ages. I have personally seen as a volunteer or participant to events like Canada Day or Breakfast with Santa or Turkey Bingo or craft markets, and saw the delighted faces of people from toddlers to seniors. Number 4, availability. The Komoka Community Center is available to all residents of the community at reasonable rates. Number 5, future. The Komoka Community Center will be necessary to meet the needs of our growing community, as according to Middlesex Center's master plan, population is expected to more than triple from 4,600 to 15,900 in the next 25 years. Isn't it irresponsible to eliminate a vital community center in light of this rapid expansion? Number 6, ownership. The Komoka Community Center was largely funded by and built by the community for the community. Community should be the one who decides its future. Though there is a cost associated with upgrading and maintaining the Komoka Community Center, I would say that it is the responsibility of local government to meet the needs of the community, especially one that will be experiencing tremendous growth. I also would say that the cost associated with upgrading the Komoka Community Center would be no different than for other community centers in Middlesex Center or the cost of renovating the Middlesex Center offices. Regarding the issue of utilization, I would suggest that Middlesex Center staff facilitate a task force with interested stakeholders to put together a plan for increasing utilization. Community building ideas such as children day camps during the Christmas, March, and summer breaks, youth dances, trivia nights, holiday celebration, dinner dances, on-site cafe, etc., could be explored in addition to increasing awareness in the community of the availability and cost of rental. In closing, the Oxford Dictionary defines community as a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. The Komoka Community Center helps fulfill this definition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nakamura. Now it is Mr. David Klein that has the opportunity to speak.
Hello there.
Hello, we can see you and hear you.
Okay, fabulous. I've been told that that there are several people that are in favor of this commercial development. But we know a lot of people in Komoka. We go for walks almost nightly. We're down at the park quite often. And we're on this online group. And I can tell you, just in case anyone's not aware of this, the people of Komoka are against this. Like, we are on a scale of 1 to 10, you got to know that we're probably, and 10 being the hardest against it, we're probably at about a 12. So just realize that. And I guess for me, when I think of the councillors as representing us, I really struggle with the motivation. Like, why would you want to sell? Like, I didn't even think it was serious when then this idea came up about selling part of the park. I didn't believe it. I truly didn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. But to my distress, I guess it's actually true. But I mean, and one of these motivations, like, I guess it's this community center. This seems to be a real sore spot with the expense. If you have to, tear down the community center. Okay, just put grass there. Like, the idea of selling off that land and putting a commercial development in there, no, that's not happening. We're not doing that. That's a terrible idea. You got to take that off the table. If we have to raise more funds for the community center, let's do it. We can bake cookies. There's lots of ideas to raise money, and it's been around this long. So, you just got to know that. And I think that Paul brought up a very good point to Chris Chant. Chris, you will not be welcome there. I'm going to tell you that. We do not, not in that location. I mean, this is, you know, one of the reasons my family, we got a couple young kids, okay? I got 3 boys. We use the park really often, okay? And one of the things that brought us to Komoka was the fact of that park, actually, the open green space and everything. And the irony is that if you commercialize that portion of it, that will actually deter people from coming to live in Komoka. And I think also Ron made an excellent point. You know, you're looking at all this population growth here, right? You should be bringing up what you should be saying here is there should be a proposal to enlarge the park and not to shrink it, right? But in any event, we certainly don't want a commercial venture there for a lot of reasons. It's stuck between 2 elementary schools. You're going to increase traffic here. The light pollution was already brought up, the traffic, of course. I just gonna leave it with this. You know, if any counselors, we need 3 more counselors to vote against this. And I guess the thing I would say is passion. We are very, 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 very much against you selling off this park and putting a commercial venture there. It's got to be taken off the table. And if you go ahead with this, realize that in future votes, Sue, we appreciate your position on this very much. And we need 3 more counselors to come alongside and vote against this. But anyone that does vote for this, well, we will vote against you in future elections. So that's the way people feel.
Thank you for that then. Justin Marshall is the next presenter.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Justin.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Municipal Council. My name is Justin Marshall, and I reside at 148 Huron Avenue in Komoka. I would like to speak to you on behalf of the Komoka Railway Museum about the proposal to designate the community center and surrounding lands as surplus property. So a little bit about the museum. The Komoka Railway Museum was founded by a group of individuals, including Ron Davis, a local historian, in 1977, with the support of the local community and former Lobo Township. The museum has many unique local and railway artifacts. And we are more than just a railway museum. We encourage and support the storage and presentation of local history. The railway building is the 3rd station in Komoka and was built in 1912. It was moved to its present location in 1978 and opened in 1986. It was the last remaining publicly accessible station in Middlesex, excluding London and Glencoe. The King and Queen passed through the station in the 1939 Royal Tour. Our 1972 caboose was one of the last working cabooses in all of Canada. And our Shay locomotive is just one of 3,000 ever built. So these are unique artifacts that we have at the museum. And a little bit about the importance of the railway history, because there's been a lot of people that have made comments that it's no longer relevant. First of all, Komoka would not exist without the railway. We had repair shops for the Sarnia and Windsor branch lines. We even had a roundhouse, and we had both CPR and CN stations. At one point, it was actually felt that Komoka would be larger than London. However, due to speculation and all the land being bought up, it became too expensive, so everyone moved to London instead of Komoka. interesting how things have changed. The gravel pits here were owned by both CN and CP. And the railway provided a vital component to the development of our country. Komoka was almost completely dependent on the railway. It was responsible for bringing in necessary materials, exporting cargo, delivery of mail, and many other vital functions of a community. It was also at the time the primary mode of passenger traffic. And to bring it to more current times, we still have many local businesses that are still dependent on the railway for bulk export, for example, master feeds. And things like fertilizer for farmers is still imported in bulk via the railway. My point being, the railway is both important historically and currently. So how do we feel about the disposition of the proposal? Unfortunately, at this time, the Komoka Railway Museum does not support the proposal as described. It significantly impacts the ability to maintain our existing operations, grow our operations, and engage with the community. It will prevent us from being able to share our living history events of railroading on our live stream tracks. Although there have been suggestions of moving the tracks, no location has been provided that meets the technical requirements of the track. And it does not meet the requirements of the 5 to 10 year plan we are in the process of developing. So what are our live stream events? It's an opportunity for us to share the living history of railroading. This is not seeing a static locomotive in a museum. These are actual steam trains running on actual railroads, and it's a great way to engage the local children in the area. And we give them rides, whether they're visiting the museum or not. With the current location, one of our busiest times is when all the kids are playing soccer in the nearby field. While one child is playing, them or their friends are coming for a ride. In the current plan, there is no opportunity for us to do that. And that is a great opportunity for us to encourage them to come visit at a later time. The live stream events also is an opportunity to teach patience. Unfortunately, these machines can be temperamental and they take time. And on many occasions, parents of children have come up and said, thank you for helping teach the children the patience to wait for something that is unique. In today's instant gratification society, it is a unique capability. In the staff report, we noticed numerous incorrect property designations. We sent written concerns for these improper designations, and although some amendments were made to the plan, the majority of them were not addressed. The office, as it's labeled in the proposal, is our heritage railway station. This is not an office, this is a heritage building. The train is our baggage car, which is part of a train, but it is not a train. The locomotive is our caboose. That's what goes at the end of the train. The locomotive is what goes at the beginning of the train. The maintenance shed, which was marked for removal, is our large artifacts building. We have numerous artifacts in there, including a CN high railer and other items that are in the process of being organized. And we've been in the process of clearing it out for trying to set up displays in that building. And our big concern is the property line in the proposal does not match what was brought up during the initial consultations with the museum. And the CN shipping container was missing entirely from the plan. Now, if council chooses to proceed, we have some expectations of what the municipality would do. The first thing is we would need an agreement in writing. While there have been discussions about moving the building and moving the tracks, there's nothing in the proposal as to where that would happen. And we have concerns about where it would even be feasible to move these items. we would need the municipality to design and build a replacement building for our large artifacts building. That new building would need to meet the museum requirements, and it would have to be built prior to dismantling of the existing structure. Our current structure is full of many old pieces of railway history. Unless we have the replacement building first, we have nowhere to store those artifacts. We would also need the municipality to provide the funds or materials to build a replacement in-ground track. Unfortunately, the existing track requires a very large footprint, and putting it anywhere in the remaining property would not be safe for the community, because it would either block access to the buildings or people would have to climb over it, which is not a safe decision. It would also not meet accessibility requirements. The minimum cost to rebuild this track as an in-ground track is somewhere in the order of $8,000 to $10,000, and the radius of the track is quite large. We would also expect the municipality to relocate existing assets and artifacts from the existing buildings, or in some places to better accommodate the small amount of space that would remain. One of which is the caboose. And the minimum cost to move that caboose would be about $50,000, because the baggage car would have to be moved, the ground would have to be properly prepared, and it would require one large crane and one or two small cranes from the research we have done. There are also several memorial trees that will need to be relocated. We feel that the existing proposal is simply too small. There's not enough room to rebuild an in-ground track or to even replace the existing building. And we feel that the land allocated would have to increase to at least 1.1 acres. And we have a proposed map, which was also included in our written response. We'd also need the municipality to cover any municipally required costs, including but not limited to agreements, licenses, approvals, zoning, and studies. This is the map that we created as an idea of how we would lay out the remaining land. In the current proposal, the property is being chopped off here. If you look at this, there is no room to rebuild the existing building, nor would there be sufficient room to lay this track. One theory was to put the track around the lower portion of the property. However, that is simply not feasible. The track has to be built on completely level ground, and the ground has to be properly prepared. The existing grounds do not allow us to move that track elsewhere.
Mr. Marshall, you've run out of time as well. I'm sorry.
Okay, I just have one last thing to say and then I am finished.
Okay, why did
I just want to say thank you for your time and further details of our presentation. And for further details of our presentation, please read both of our detailed submissions to council staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jim St. John is our next speaker, and I see he's here. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on. The floor is yours.
Well, it's good that I'm going incognito, because my wife regularly tells me that's how I look best.
Okay. Okay, take it away.
Okay, good evening, members of council, staff, and remote attendees. My name is Jim St. John. I live on Caver Hill Crescent in Komoka. There were a couple of details in Mr. Mayor's presentation that I was not able to make out from the diagram, so I will be adjusting a little bit of my talk on the fly. Please excuse any stuttering and ums as I do so. My wife and I chose Komoka in 2016. This means I don't have the historical preference or perspective or sense of betrayal offered by many of my fellow community members. It is, though, close enough to me to easily remember that the availability of a nearby community center was a very positive factor when we chose where to live. My wife and I started playing pickleball regularly at KCC, and it's through there that we began our integration into community life beyond our immediate neighbors. This is year-round pickleball as well. This is not just an outdoor court. It's something we were able to do year-round. We also participate in line dancing exercises and craft fairs at the KCC. It's my understanding there is no solution proposed in this deal that sees the KCC remaining. So effectively everything that we used to do and we do currently do is just going to be completely wiped out. I've been around here long enough to see my grandson start playing baseball in the DKMB organization. I've seen him learn the value and rewards of effort and teamwork, and it's set him on the track to moving up to the AAA London Badgers. My granddaughter has started to follow in his tracks, and I certainly hope that the park is available for them to use, going forward. Again, he ran indoor practices inside the KCC in the gym area. Obviously, that sort of thing is not going to be available for Mackenzie, unfortunately. This sort of activity allows people to become community assets. I use the term asset here because a true community is more than just a few bricks. It is our people, and it's our collective responsibility to ensure a positive foundation for living and growing. Carving a chunk out of the heart of my community will weaken all of Middlesex Centre. Based on the Middlesex Centre official plan, Komoka is projected to grow enormously, which we've already talked about here. Community facilities need to be ready when this growth arrives. Immediate availability will be a selling point in attracting the most positive new members of our community, and that'll end up benefiting all of Middlesex Centre. A scattering of proposed parkettes or plans down the road just don't cut it. I've been told by staff the Delaware and Coldstream community centers have similar usage levels to the KCC. In the interest of treating all citizens equally, why doesn't council designate these CCs as surplus as well? Maybe we can attract new businesses to there too. Every ward has parks and playgrounds. Will these also be evaluated for surplus designation? I don't know how many of these areas, I don't know many of these areas well, but I do know that the Delaware CC. My wife is there for an activity every week. It's already on a main commercial road instead of a residential street. So in my mind, it's better positioned for a new private business operation. I'll just pose a presumably rhetorical question for Councillor Scott. How would your Delaware neighbors feel if some business made an unsolicited pitch to plow the CC and a chunk of the park so someone could make a profit? During the last municipal campaign, Mayor DeVete, you spent a few minutes at my door, and thank you for paying the attention to do that. During our brief discussion, among other points, you mentioned the developer for Kilworth Heights West threatened to take legal action against you and your home specifically if you didn't cease and desist your negative comments. First of all, it's good that you were willing to stand up for some of the community views, but with an increasingly aggressive business climate and increasing pressure for land, has anyone considered if a sell-off of the KCC could be used as a legal precedent to help force future such carvings? Has anybody on council or staff obtained a professional opinion on this possibility? Once the ball has started rolling on selling off community properties, it has the clear potential to be a slippery slope that can spread into everyone's backyard. So today it's Komoka, tomorrow, somewhere else. In the end, everybody is going to have to face up to this sort of situation. It's an example of NIMBYism, except NIMBYism can spread. In terms of budgets, every municipal budget should contain funding for new community facilities in line with growth and community needs. With Komoka Kilworth in line for a population explosion that has already begun, I've seen zero assurance that this trust fund that is proposed would remain separate from normal budgetary allowances. In effect, any future council could vote to simply cannibalize this trust and defeat any implied compensatory impression. My cynical side wonders if this is someone's unspoken agenda for a decision that appears to be effectively made already. I'm betting the vast majority of opposition inputs are centered on what the business community calls soft rationale. While important, a purely business analysis may dismiss them as unsubstantiated, unverifiable, irrational, and so on. I'm in no way saying this last line is fair or accurate, just that I had many years of dealing with bean counters who value only pure numbers. For this reason, I'm going to explain why I'm certain this is a bad financial decision. Number one, the funds from this quote unquote sale are to be placed in what's called a trust fund. In effect, this is supposed to be compensation for something that would be taken away from my community against our wishes. Municipalities' options for investment are constrained by law. Point two, the stated goal here is to prevent overly aggressive and reckless tactics with public funds. Nobody here wants to end up like Orange County did in California, as an example. The downside is that returns are also limited. Point three, now for what I'll call my personal numbers. In preparation for today, I spoke with two builders with many, many years of experience in Mount Bridges, Komoka, and Ilderton. Their consensus was any project in Middlesex Center starting from scratch would take an absolute minimum of 3 years to come online, and that would mean everything went as perfectly as a Bullet Express train. The best CD rate available in Canada right now is 3%. Inflation is now running at 6.7%, with zero predictions of any quick relief. For my calculations, I've taken an average of 4% over the next 3 years, which I consider to be exceptionally generous and low-balling. Some institutions like Deutsche Bank predict a far more serious long-term pain. Based on these low numbers, in 3 years, any trust fund after inflation would be worth almost 7% less. These same builders told me construction costs are increasing by 10 to 18%, depending on the work involved, with, if anything, a growing rate of increase. Some things like materials have dropped from last year's peak. Some things like skilled trades have rocketed, and that's their consensus word, way past anything imagined, even if they can find the labor. For the purposes of today, I've settled on 14%, which I think anyone who's followed the housing market would consider to be generously low. Using this low rate in 3 years with compounding, this 14% equates to approximately a 44% reduction in what the trust dollars will actually deliver 3 years down the road. Again, assuming 3 years actually happens that quickly. Putting all these best case estimated numbers together, any trust fund total paid today would deliver 53% less. That's 53% less actual constructed value 3 years down the road. I welcome anybody on staff or council to contact me to review or question my numbers. I was absolutely astounded at how bad they look. I can absolutely guarantee everyone in my 14 years of designing and evaluating big ticket utility projects, if I ever recommended approval of an unsolicited project that would result in a 53% loss over a 3-year deployment, the finance committee would have taken less than a nanosecond to tell me no, after which I would have been promptly dropped on the sidewalk. If council doesn't want to return this down for community spirit and quality of life reasons, you should most certainly do it because it's a financially disastrous one. The costs of all of this and what it'll actually deliver just won't measure up. A great council's legacy isn't about deals or new buildings. It is about the way a community's quality of life made its people feel better about where they call home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. St. John. Blair Mercer is our next presenter, or delegate, pardon me.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, I must be on.
You are on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Ina and Deputy Mayor and council members for the opportunity to address the sale of the Komoka Community Center and its recreational lands. I consider it an absolute privilege to reside in Komoka with my family since 2014 on Oxbow Drive. I am the founding pastor of Gateway Komoka since 2012. And this coming Sunday, actually, will mark our 10-year anniversary. We're just thrilled to be a part of this community. And I've loved being personally involved with many of the associations in our community over the past 10 years. I also want to thank the mayor and the council for the opportunity for Gateway Church in Komoka to rent the Komoka Community Centers during this time. Scott Mayer and his administration staff have been fantastic, actually, to work with. I would say we've even become a bit of friends. We enjoy a coffee and working together and laughing together, and the admin staff are fantastic. It's been a great experience. I can understand how challenging a task it is to manage the current assets of our growing community and to plan for the different needs of our community, both now and the future. This is a very challenging task. And I want to thank you again for being leaders in our community to try to broaden those eyes and to consider all of those things. That leadership is a very difficult task. I believe for a community to be healthy, all of its needs must be met. Like spokes on a wheel, they all need to be strong for the wheel to turn. Considering the different needs, the social needs, the economic, the educational, the environmental, and the health needs, I personally am not able to speak to all of the needs of the community, as I'm an expert in, I think, very few of them. But regarding the use of the community center and its lands, I just want to take a moment to speak about the spiritual needs of our community. Gateway Church has always desired to be a church that comes alongside the community to meet whatever need they can. Whether the person attends church or not, whether they attend once or not, whether they attend a few times or not, we want to do our part in building a strong community and to create meaningful impact for the generations to come. And we actually kind of hope that you've seen that as we've been involved in as many areas as we can. From the country terrace to local sports, to community and local school fundraisers, business association, I could keep going. As we have rented the Komoka Community Center, we have loved being a church in the middle of town, to rub shoulders with everyone, where families could walk to church together and know their neighbors and not been far outside of town. We have loved being a church that is in a familiar place to people. And over the past 10 years, we've seen upwards to attendance of 200 on an average Sunday, maybe 300-400 on peak events. And more than half of those, 60% or so of those, have all been local family addresses to attend our services and our programs. And so we would prefer to continue to rent the Komoka Community Center. We believe that one of the components of a strong and healthy community is the spiritual needs of the people. We want to meet that need through times of grief, times of joy. People need a spiritual cornerstone to count on, someone to love and care and support those who are lonely and isolated. And we want to be a voice of support for families and marriages in times of crisis by creating environments where families can come together and encourage one another. And we hope to be bringing that to the community in the new future, many new ideas that we have, and hopefully to be using perhaps this facility, more kids programs and youth programs and PDD activities and day camps. We have lots of desire and vision to keep investing into this community. So as you know, churches in our area have been closing. A lot of it's to do with the land. It's a lot of bit of keeping up to date with the resources that we need. And councils in the past have recognized their community's spiritual need and have taken responsibility to make space in their city plans for churches' land, for churches to have a presence and be present in their community. So I thank you that we have been able to been in this place, and I hope that you and we hope and pray that you make these right decisions, and I hope that we can stay inside the community. We don't know where we would be able to meet consistently without the Komoka Community Center being there. I thank you for this opportunity again to share. I'm a little bit shorter than 10 minutes.
You certainly are. Thank you for your presentation, Blair. And next is Mr. Joseph Carroll.
Through the chair, appears Mr. Joseph Carroll is not coming online at this time, so we can move to our next speaker, and we'll certainly return to Joe and offer an opportunity to speak during the raise hand portion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I have Mr. Bob Douglas next.
Audio check here, audio, video, how are we doing?
Audio, yes. Video, no.
Okay, I think I'm just gonna go ahead without the video, or is that a requirement?
Oh, no, you can choose to suit yourself.
Okay, great, let's just keep it that way. I am here to exercise the 3 B's of business: be there, be brief, and be gone. Councilors, mayor, and everybody that's shown up tonight, thanks very much for your time. I will open by saying that I've gone through the FAQs 3 or 4 times. Can't really come to much of a conclusion other than that this set of FAQs provides no value to the community and leaves the community very undervalued. That's my opening position. I'm going to tell a story about the community center. I'll never be able to do the job as well as Paul. But quickly, one day we're at the community center at an Optimist meeting, and they had this idea about meeting Santa Claus. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty good. Kids like Santa Claus, it'll probably work. Went to the hockey arena in Mount Bridges, took my kid and his next door neighbor friend, and on the way back, that better stop in and see how it's going. Anyways, we sat down and had breakfast with about 20 other people, asked to set up a few chairs. And we set up all the chairs that there were in the community center. And by the time we got that done, there was a lineup for about 40 people. Sure, yeah, we probably couldn't do that anywhere else in the community. Sure, the community probably had fun, but the point of the story is when you get it right, you get it right. Who knew kids like Santa Claus and grandparents like free breakfast? Weird, eh? But my point is, yeah, when you get it right, you get it right. In terms of those on council and those at the office, I am very much very pro-business. I appreciate people going out there and looking to bring business back to any part of Southwestern Ontario. I would have met with a guy by the name of Klein, who was who brought the whole concept of the economic development for London to London. And he used to say, yeah, we live in a great town. We have a great life with our kids. They have a great education, but son of a gun, they got to jump in the car and go to Toronto to get a job. And so business outreach is very important. So when I say I appreciate it, I do. As a matter of fact, I just came back from Toronto last night, where I met an old client who had gone to the market for $25 million and came back oversubscribed at $50 million. I like to see small business grow. Unfortunately, the last 30 years, I've worked out of my house or in an office somewhere in London and worked everywhere else but in London. And so business is an important thing. Moving on, in terms of the presentation and the FAQs there, kind of went through the cash issues in terms of OPEX, CAPEX, what this is going to cost over time and all that sort of stuff. I looked at this year's budget, $65 million, I think 40 million OPEX or OPEX and 25 CAPEX. Asked a few people about our ratios in terms of debt. I don't think we're financially strapped. So don't understand why we've got an issue with cash on this project. As a matter of fact, if you go to the vision statement on it talks about the value of property or of land, and selling off land to put money into a fund that's going to go who knows where has got nothing to do with the Middlesex value or vision statement. So I'm kind of confused about that and don't know why it's even an issue. But if it is, close your ears, Paul, but let's just take the community center and all the buildings there that cost so much money and bulldoze them down. And there goes our OPEX and there goes our CAPEX, right? No facilities, no cash problem, right? But we still have the thing that the vision statement says. We still have parkland or green land, and we're looking after those. So I don't think we have those cash issues though. So I don't think we have to bulldoze the property down. I'm going to leave it at that in terms of the cash problems, because I'm really not too concerned that we have them, unless somebody can show me different. In terms of the property and the property and the buildings and all that being surplus, I don't quite understand that. Surplus is something that has been put off to the side, and all the services that it's provided in the past, it's done doing. It has no ability to do that anymore, and it's wore out, and therefore surplus. I hear a lot of stuff about moving trains and moving things around and ball fields and all this sort of stuff to get back to just to kind of make this work with something else, right? I don't know that that is a surplus piece of property. If you want to look at a good example of a piece of property that went surplus, look at the library, the Central Library in London that was donated by Elsie Parent years ago. The city decided to put that out as surplus. It sits there today, vacant since the day they moved out. The entrepreneur or business guy that picked it up hasn't done a thing with it, but you know what? He doesn't have to, because it cash flows off his parking lot. He runs that place off the parking lot. So sometimes when you declare things surplus, there's probably a better way to do things, and there's no sense in slipping that out to the business world. So I'm really concerned that this isn't even close to surplus property. In terms of a business point of view, if you're a strong business person and you got some business acumen, hey, sell those assets at the top. You know, get rid of the marginal assets at the top of the market and keep you know, the golden goose going. Make the golden goose bigger, right? I don't see this as a marginal property that's surplus, but I don't see it making the golden goose any bigger. As a matter of fact, you're taking the golden goose right out of the park, right, and giving it to a commercial enterprise. Don't know that that's good. Mention a little company that's up in Sudbury by the name of Inco. About 20 years ago, a guy by the name of Scott Hand sold off Inco. He sold it to a company out of Brazil by the name of Vale. Scott sold Inco right at the peak of the market, $20 nickel. And today we don't have any new nickel production in Canada since that. So you can sell off assets, but sometimes it's really hard to replace them. As a matter of fact, my friend that raised the $52 million is trying to get a nickel project going back here in Canada. Because why? Well, the electric vehicles, every battery needs nickel. So sometimes you lose assets and you just can't get them back for decades, right? So from a business strategy point of view, I think it's weak at best in terms of benefit. I would love, I saw at the beginning, it says, so there's lots of benefits to the community here. Didn't see any. There was no benefits listed. As a matter of fact, from a business point of view, if you bring in an independent company that works for their shareholders, they are not aligned with the community's best interests at all. You have no recourse over them. I saw nothing that says that we're going to have a contract so we can have things such as ice time, gym time, similar to what we've got now. There's no contract in place. And even if you have a contract in place, a business can change and change ownership, and you got nothing in your hand to go back and use that facility at all. So in terms of benefits, there are absolutely none. The buyer, and I don't think his intentions are bad. As a matter of fact, Dr. Chris, good for you to stimulate business in our area. But I you know, things can happen. People, you know, the pastor that was just on there asking, mortality is still at 100%. People die for no reason, right? You can have a good handshake type deal, but if you have no leverage over that partner, you got nothing. And that's what I think we get here in terms of benefit. Might seem good short term, definitely not long term. Been in lots of partnerships, seen a lot of companies go south because of what was supposed to happen at the beginning, and it never does. Anyways, I think what I would like to do is look forward from the future into the future here. We've gone through this. I think this is the third or fourth time in terms of people coming to buy this asset from us. Somebody made the point like, hey, this ties up a lot of time, money, and energy from the people at, you know, at the county office there. Sure, every time we sit down and look at one of these, it costs us time and dollars, and it costs a lot of emotional strife in the community. I think that needs to come to a stop. We need to be able to put something out and say, look, somebody wants to come and take a look, stroke a check, 100 grand. You might not get the property, but you don't get your check back. It's got to stop. We can't go on like this. This is crazy stuff, right? There's lots of other good things that we need to be doing other than defending property. And hey, you know what? I don't blame business people for doing it. I would do it myself. It's a good strategy, right? But it's just got to stop, right? In terms of the parkland, pushing the building down is not bad. You end up with more green space. Green space drives in parkland drives the value of your house, right? The reason it drives the value of your house is because people want it. People want it because they take their kids, they take their babies, they take their parents. Everybody goes to the park to relax, right? If you think about the number of times you've been to Springbank Park, times in your life where you just say, hey, let's just go for a walk in Springbank Park. Any of the parks around here, any of the parks. In terms of the value proposition, if you take a park in North America that drives a lot of value, look at Central Park, highest paid, highest priced real estate there. There's nowhere near those prices anywhere else in New York because it's because of the park and the green space, right? So I don't have any clue why we get rid of less green space, right?
Bob, I'm sorry.
We've
run out of time, and I think you need to wrap it up.
In conclusion, it's not a proposition, it's a bunch of FFQs. That's really weird. They provide no value to the community, and we are far less off with going through with anything in these FFQs than we are today. Thank you.
And thank you. The next presenter is, and I don't know how to say this name properly, Paul Merrick.
Can you hear us?
I can. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Pardon me.
It's okay.
It's Paul and Wendy Marich.
Marich, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Mayor, deputy mayor, councilors, and fellow residents. When our family moved to Komoka 10 years ago, we were attracted to its small village rural charm, the friendliness of its people, and the all-around community atmosphere. Every day, twice a day for the past 10 years, we have walked our two dogs in and around the parkland and along the trails that surround Komoka Community Center, often stopping to chat with neighbors and fellow dog walkers we meet up with along the way. We've enjoyed many a pickleball game on the outdoor courts. We have been entertained by the antics of the kids on the T-ball diamond and enjoyed many community events in the community center and surrounding parkland. Where will we walk and how will people enjoy the park once the construction begins? And later when a portion of the parkland becomes an oversized parking lot? What will the traffic coming and going from this new development look like? Not to mention the increased traffic all along Queen Street, Glendon, and Simcoe. A traffic assessment after the fact is too late. This year, Council introduced its first age-friendly community action plan. This new plan looks to remove physical and social barriers and implement policies and services to support healthy aging and allow older adults to remain active and engaged. As per Mayor DeVete, and I quote, Middlesex Center values the well-being of its residents and wants to ensure that everyone can participate fully in community life. There are 6,600 residents aged 55 and over in Middlesex Center, representing 1/3 of the total population. Yet Council wants to sell off the only community center in Komoka that runs 55 and over programs and make residents pay to use the pickleball and tennis courts and eliminate 4 acres of parkland they'll never get back. Doesn't this seem counterintuitive? How does this support healthy aging and well-being of the Middlesex Center residents? Please remember, as elected officials, your jobs are to represent the best interests of the community. Our hope is that you will listen and support your community and save the community center and the precious parkland around it. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another name, Joshua Marich. Okay. This is okay. The floor is yours. I wasn't sure who was coming together or, yeah, go ahead, Joshua. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, and fellow residents. I just want to make some comments regarding my opposition to this new project. Just to ground my position, I would like to open with the original Middlesex mission statement, which states, Middlesex Centre is a community of urban and rural communities woven together by the strength of our agricultural base, community spirit, and positive vision. Through innovative planning, financial responsibility, and strong partnerships, we will sustain our unique character while ensuring a strong future for our citizens. Middlesex, and more specifically Komoka, has welcomed new generations of residents, many of whom have relocated here to escape the city and live in a quieter rural town. This sentiment is not new. In fact, it was codified into the official plan of the municipality of Middlesex Centre. During the creation of the municipality's strategic plan, a consistent theme arose during the public participation, which related to the recognition and preservation of the traditional physical and social character of Middlesex Centre settlement and agricultural areas. I'm here to assert that this desire to uphold Komoka's town and country theme has not changed. And you may ask why this town and country theme is relevant to the current project at hand. It's relevant because it was woven into the town and country theme a desire to preserve the municipality's traditional village-scapes and countryscapes, and other aspects that could be characterized as reflecting a more traditional style of town and country planning, a great example of which is the Komoka Community Centre. It is the intent of this official plan to apply the following broad concepts of traditional town and country planning as a general guide in the establishment of overall official plan principles. A general principle, as stated in section 1.7, subsection F of the official plan of the municipality of Middlesex Centre, asserts that the municipality is to manage growth and change in an appropriate manner and in appropriate locations with the intent of maintaining the positive physical character and attributes that municipal residents currently enjoy. It is clear that this project is not the priority of our municipality. Seeing as many residents currently enjoy the Komoka Community Centre for the social and health benefits. Furthermore, subsection M asserts that the municipality is to enhance or revitalize existing civic or municipal public spaces where appropriate. Again, the actions of this municipality say otherwise. Since they have seemingly failed to exhaust other avenues for this project, it seems clear that enhancing or revitalizing Komoka's main public space has not been seriously considered by our municipality. Finally, subsection F provides that the municipality is to provide an efficient and safe transportation network facilitating all forms of movement through and within the municipality, including pedestrian and cycling movement wherever possible and appropriate within settlement areas. This new project will undoubtedly increase automobile traffic in the neighborhood, or else it would not be a feasible venture. Thus, what plans are there to mitigate risk to our pedestrian population? What safeguards will there be for children, elderly residents, and everyone in between to safely traverse down and or across Queen Street? Thus, this new project does not align with Komoka's town and country theme. So we must ask ourselves, why does our council believe that this project is in the best interest of our constituents? In response to immense opposition, council purports to protect constituents through contract stipulations such as a buyback clause. But in the case of a resale, it's unlikely, if not impossible, that the municipality will be able to afford to even exercise that clause to buy back the property. Thus, once the land is rezoned, it will likely be lost forever. So what motives are there to go forward with this project? Honestly, there seem to be few and far between. And to be frank, this appears to be the council's attempt to rid the municipality of its responsibility to oversee and maintain the community center, albeit at a significantly undervalued rate. In closing, it seems clear that this project does not comply with the official community plan and thus could give rise to an appeal in the future. If mayor and council move forward with this project, they will deviate from the core guiding principles that have made Komoka one of the most desirable places to live in Southern Ontario. I hope that you consider my statements when forming your decisions, and thank you for your time.
And thank you. The last registered delegate is Lisa Scott.
Hello?
Hi, Ms. Scott. The floor is yours if you'd like to make your presentation.
Okay, I can't say I was as well organized as everyone else. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, and fellow residents. I am not as prepared as I'd like to be. However, a lot of people have commented about things that I've thought about, and I did have a start. Just have to find it. Okay. Sorry, I'm nervous.
It's okay, breathe.
Oh, okay. Komoka Community Center is a vital part of our community. There are many benefits to a community center in any town. Keeping this community center flows with the values we place, as does the council place, on the preservation of green space. We also honor memories and history within this community. I understand the council wants to hear out the members of the community in tonight's meeting. I have also sorted through the questions and answers that council has placed on the Middlesex Center website. I too have many questions that were not addressed on that site. And I'll go, and as Joshua, I think just before me, I was looking at the plans and the vision and the mission of council. And I know in the one strategic plan from 2021 to 2026, it was determined that it should be rooted in the needs of the community and the input of residents and businesses. And your vision was a thriving, progressive, and welcoming community that honors our rural roots and embraces our natural spaces. And through this, you have engaged the community with your strategic priorities. So yeah, you've engaged Komoka community. And then you talk about balancing growth and so on. And for each priority, a series of objectives and initiatives that you did provide. Sorry. And then you have, yeah, your mission about respect to, and cooperation, about working in the spirit of trust. And I know this is the third time that the community center has been brought up to mention to be sold. And so I don't know if it's going to be, if it's just on the agenda every new council or what happens here. I don't understand why we can't invest in our own community. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Yes, and so talking about, oh, and then as on a website, Team Forester, it has about being sorry. It has about the Moving to Komoka, the Ultimate Guide to Living in Komoka 2019. That was back in August 2019. And it talks about increase in the population spurring new development. And then it talks about like a massive community arena. So, and then shopping centers and stuff like that. And I don't know if how long it's been on the agenda to sell this. And I question that also. And I do not know when you decided to sell this or what has brought you to sell this. There was, it's also questions like, the doctor talked about everything would be covered by OHIP, but I think things like using our own tennis court, pickleball court, that kind of thing will not be covered by OHIP. I think we need to also concentrate on, okay, sorry. There's also, to buy a house in Komoka, I am not rich, and a lot of houses are going for $1 million. And I see in your budget, it had that to fix this community center would cost around, I think it was $700 and something thousand. And that's just the price of one house. So we're welcoming people to this community and paying $1 million for a house, and this whole community can't put together $700,000 to fix our community center, when it would be beneficial if we could. I see, was it Paul is part of yeah, sorry. Like the Komoka Community Center has done a lot for this community. It's it bonds our community together. And I think if we started, like, we have the community services director of community services. I'm not sure of what goes on. However, if we started putting money into doing programs, I think somebody talked about this, doing programs for children, as our community grows, we're going to have more kids. And I don't think everybody can afford to send their kid to Komoka Kid Care or the YMCA. It's not all affordable. And I don't see why we can't have community programs that are more affordable within our community. And that would give student jobs too, and people jobs. I don't know. I want it to be more organized. Yeah, so I am upset. I grew up in Komoka. Sorry. And I'm not sure when you stopped renting the community center. I know you can't, if you go on the website to rent the community center, you're not allowed to. I don't know how long it's been cut off, and I don't know when's the last time you invested money in the community center. It would have been rare for the last couple of years because of COVID. However, you've been trying to sell it for so many times now, I'm not sure you ever put money into it. I have heard that there's money going into the Coldstream one, and it's getting a second floor and things like that. And then I wonder, is Komoka just the closest to London? Are we the only one with sewer and water? Is that why he picked here? And why not go out on the highway where our stores are, where our businesses are? Why not pick out there? Why come right into our town, right into the middle of town? I'm really opposed to this. And I was disappointed too that I was under the belief that the Railway Museum was for this. Not until Joshua came on. Oh no, he talked about them. Not until the representative from the Railway Museum came on did I even know that they were opposed to this. And I really think you guys need to go over your mission, your vision, and you need to really rethink and look over what promises you have already made to us. Anyways, I'm not going to mumble anymore. And I want to thank you for the time and your patience to listen to what I've said. I think, yeah. So thanks. And yeah, please reconsider. Please. This is terrible. Thank you.
Okay, Lisa, thank you kindly. I know we had one person who didn't get in. Have you started letting people with raised hands in, clerk?
Through the chair, now's an opportunity for us to remind the public that they can use the raise hand feature at this time, and we'll be happy to begin bringing individuals on. I have received a message from one member of the public, so I, through the chair, would welcome that our first delegate we are bringing is Ann Manelli, and we will bring Ann Manelli on the line now, and I will record the list of upcoming speakers and provide that to you.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's been a long night, but I do appreciate you allowing me to speak. Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councils. Many of the things that I'm going to bring up have already been brought up before, but I just wanted to address and let you know that I do not support the proposal of declaring the Komoka Community Center and Parkland surplus with the intent of selling it for development. With Ron speaking and Paul Houghton speaking before, and knowing that we have over 1,500 people opposed that went out of their way to send in messages, sign petitions, whether it's online or in person, I think that is enough to let you know that we don't want this. I have nothing against Dr. Chant. I would welcome his facility being brought into Middlesex County, but not at the sacrifice of our recreational parcel where the Komoka Community Center or park sits. You know, and certainly Paul Milemans gave a great bit of history about how important that Komoka Community Center is to everyone here. I've been living in here or in Komoka for almost 40 years. And I hope that after all of the speakers have finished, that everyone, including council, comes away with a better appreciation of the importance of this area and why we want to retain every inch of that property. So, you know, this facility that is proposed by Dr. Chant is a for-profit commercial business venture with things like a proposed outdoor patio, a restaurant, a VIP lounge, other leased areas that it's not written in stone what they're going to be. And this is more of a private recreational and entertainment facility than what you're toting it as a health service. And I'm not sure why the municipality is approaching it that way when health services all fall under the province of Ontario. So and we already have physio and other services within this center already. So I'm not sure why you feel that that is so important. Dr. Chant and council, the business would be much better suited on the fringe of Komoka-Kilworth, which was always the way that council previously wanted to bring in commercial. Council before always made sure that commercial properties were never brought into the residential areas. And I really think that with the land being sold and other areas that are closer to that 402 corridor that Dr. Chant is worried about, there are other lands out there. Right now, you're looking at putting a commercial property in an area that is zoned recreational and residential, including an area that houses 2 schools and a 40-kilometer speed limit. We have difficulty already controlling our traffic. This is only going to make it worse and actually far more dangerous to the incident of struck by or near misses for both youth and adults. It's really important that maintaining the livability in the surrounding established residential areas is critical, and a commercial property would have a negative impact on the quality of life for the affected neighborhood. At least twice before, the Middlesex Center Council has tried to sell off the community center, and the residents, myself included, have stood up at public meetings and said no. The council thankfully listened to the taxpayers. Parks provide countless benefits to the social, economic, environmental, and physical dimensions of individuals and communities. From an economic perspective, parks are an economic catalyst and positively impact the value of communities. Parks are critical in defining the quality of life in such areas as Middlesex Center and contributes to the well-being of its residents, both young and old. Parkland is an asset that serves to define a healthy town or city and should not be sold ever. Industry comes and goes and provides commerce, not community. Managing park and community center finances never go away. We want you as our elected officials to be responsible and move forward with the foresight and past planning of previous councils as this area grows. This doesn't mean that you remove an important part of the community. The next 20 years is going to be considerable growth opportunities for Middlesex Center. Komoka Kilworth is predicted to have 63% of that growth. With the recent announcements of commercial growth in London, my guess is that 63% will grow even higher. Losing even 4 acres of our park is unacceptable. The community center and recreational parkland fills the void that the wellness center and small parkettes around the area do not. Do not use the excuse other villages don't have a wellness center and a community center. That wellness center is Middlesex Center Wellness Center, not just Komoka. We need our community center. And both of those buildings offer very different services to the community. Mayor, deputy mayor, and councilors, is this how you want to be remembered? Stripping away such an important piece of the community for a privately owned business that may or may not be around in years to come. Is it worth the sacrifice to this community? Mayor, again, in the April edition of Komoka Kilworth Delaware Villager, you were celebrating the volunteers in this community. You said that almost everything that happens across the municipality is supported by volunteers, dedicated residents with expertise in a very broad range of endeavors who eagerly share their time and skills for the benefit of all. June 2022, the Komoka Kilworth Optimist Group, the group that in the past has still continued to help fund many of our children's activities, is celebrating 50 years of giving to the youth in this community and surrounding Middlesex Center. This group did fundraising to build the center, as well as worked in partnership with baseball and soccer associations to build the many facilities that you and your children use. And also we give to help school programs. The Komoka Kilworth Optimists have been threatened with an eviction notice. Is that how you repay a dedicated group of individuals that were instrumental in building this community? At this time, there are only 2 community centers, Delaware and Komoka, that are sports capable. The Wellness Center gym is operated by the YMCA and is not set up to facilitate the uses the Komoka Community Center is. The cost of renting the wellness gym is 3 times the cost of the community center. And I would hazard to guess that the future domed tennis and pickleball courts will be more in line with what the wellness center charges. The increase is too much for people that are on fixed or lower incomes. The township said the Komoka Community Center isn't utilized and needs many repairs. Well, so does the Delaware one. The same type of repairs, and the Delaware Community Center is older. So I don't think that that is a fair comparison to hang the Komoka Community Center out when Delaware is in exactly the same position. I was up at the community center. We drove past this past Saturday. It was great. There was a celebration going on in the community center, and both tennis courts were being used. I heard from one of the attendees of this function that they called the township office and wanted to book an event in the future. They were told it wasn't available due to renovations. That's a lie. Mayor, deputy mayor, and council, I am pleading with you to please listen to the people that have sent emails, signed petitions, organized peaceful protests in opposition, and don't take away our parkland and community center. It is so disheartening that we must rally against the group of people that have been voted in to represent us. We trust the council will listen and do the right thing for the people of Middlesex Center, and in this case, Komoka Kilworth. The Middlesex Center Director of Community Services should have allowed more time for these organizations to go to their membership and discuss what the municipality was proposing. I don't understand why this whole process has been so rushed. Hidden agendas is not how a democratic system should work. Special interests should not drown out the voices of the people of the community. Councillors, if this was happening in your wards and your people were voicing their opposition, would you not listen? Vote no to declaring the Komoka Community Center and 4 acres of parkland surplus. Thank you very much for your time. Respectfully, Anne Manili, 143 Simcoe Crescent in Komoka.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look to the clerk.
Through the chair, yes, I can confirm that our next speaker who we are promoting to panelists now is Dana Jantis. And I apologize in advance to members of the public if I enunciate anybody's name incorrectly. Please feel free to correct that when you come on the line. So again, we have Dana who is joining us on the line now. Thank you.
Okay. Dinah?
Oh, hello. I'm actually at the behest of Dinah here, so I'm sorry to act as a... Yeah, she's had some plastic surgery done, as you can see. So,
I see that. Okay, the floor is yours. Go ahead and make your remarks, please.
And thank you for the permission to speak here tonight, Madam Mayor and councillors and residents of Komoka. I am here at the behest of Dinah, who is actually one of your citizens. I'm an observer in this instance, and as a public healthcare advocate, I was quite concerned to hear that you're going to get a private clinic trying to establish itself there. But you know what? I have to say, after the spirited defense of your democratic principles and for the defense of a publicly owned asset by the citizens of the community, I have to say I'm quite buoyed that the council will find, as almost every other person who has spoken on this issue tonight is against this proposal, and that the council will squash it. As previously noted by some of the presenters, pretty fallacious to believe that once this facility is actually sold off, that first right of refusal will somehow protect it in the future. It's kind of unbelievable to think that an old asset will be bought back by a future council once it's been utilized by the private owners. And this is what the real point is. Once a facility goes into private hands, it's exclusively at their behest what they do with it and their control of it. So I take my view from the public health side of this argument. As I remember from Dr. Chant's presentation of February 2nd, he admitted that he would no longer be working in the public health system. Now, this, of course, is kind of a disturbing claim, because if he is doing that, then suggesting that he's going to serve the needs of the people who are OHIP-based doesn't quite ring true. Again, a for-profit operation is accountable only to the owners and does not need to worry about the needs of those who cannot afford to pay for one's medical service. So hence the elites, be they the high performance athletes or the wealthy individuals, will always receive priority over the local citizens. There's no such thing as a parallel independent private and a parallel independent public healthcare system in Canada. So the same finite human resources work in both. And as we know, they're struggling immensely in the public side of the system. Generally, what happens is that the public suffers as staff leave to go to work in the private sector. And it's hard to believe that as we have operating rooms sitting idle in public hospitals in London right now due to underfunding and understaffing, that somehow Dr. Chant's private for-profit clinic is going to get provincial tax dollars to run its own ORs. So, in P3 synergies that were mentioned by Dr. Chant are largely only a benefit to the private partner at the expense of the public partner. And of course, with mandatory need to take profit, the profit taking will affect community fundraising and charity work. So it does not seem like that would be a plausible way for the community itself to go forward in this. So I would strongly throw my support into the people who are saying no to this idea. It is nothing more than another scheme for an American-style, unaffordable healthcare system being introduced in your very own community. And I know that the citizens of Komoka strongly believe in Medicare, and they will certainly object to anything of this ilk. And they're very right to defend their public asset and their priceless community center. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there other presenters?
Through the chair, yes, we have an additional member of the public. Our next member of the public who's used the raise hand feature is Geraint Harvey, and we are bringing Geraint onto the line now.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, councillors. Good evening. I'll be brief given the time. I am completely opposed to this. I see no benefits. I see huge losses to the community. There's no normative reason to go for this. The only reason that's been presented is an economic one, and based on the figures that have been presented earlier by one of my fellow presenters, this is nothing short of negligence on your part should you vote in favour of this, given the losses and the negative cash increment should you sell the price you're selling now. This doesn't make any sense. This is absolutely nonsensical. As a professional person myself, I behave according to the ethos that I only do those things I would be prepared to defend if the media got hold of them. Would you be happy to defend the decision to go ahead with this with so few benefits? None. And actually an economic decision that is nothing short of negligent. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. This is just nonsense. The one thing I will say before I leave, just to pick up on a point that was made earlier, I didn't appreciate the misrepresentation of the views of the Komoka Railway Heritage Museum. I thought that was a little bit naughty. It does lead me to wonder what else has been misrepresented in documentation and presentations made by those involved tonight. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Is there another presenter?
Through the chair, no, we do not have any additional raised hands at this time. I would note that we do have two members of the public who have spoken previously and are requesting to provide a further delegation. And I would just note that once an individual has spoken, the opportunity for raised hands is for speakers we have not yet heard from this evening. And I can confirm that at this time, there are no additional speakers who have requested to speak. Thank you.
Thank you to the clerk then. I didn't see any hands from any of the councillors during the presentations to ask questions of anything they'd heard. I'll ask, are there any questions from council with regard to something they've heard and they'd like clarified by staff? Okay. Okay, so all the members of the public have spoken, and the raised hand feature people have had a chance to jump in to the proceedings. So if there are no other questions from you, then I will ask the CAO to please outline the next steps and what the process looks like after tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Cates had her hand up, so I'll hand it over to her before I explain the next steps.
Okay. The floor is yours, Councillor.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor and Council and staff, and to all the residents listening, participating. I just have a few words that I just want to say. I want to thank you all that spoke tonight, sent in your letters, signed the petitions, the phone calls, the messages, and sharing your thoughts and some history on what the Komoka Community Center and Komoka Park mean to you and your family. Thank you for speaking from the heart and for keeping it kind. I knew the Komoka would rise up against this idea, and you certainly have. As you well know, our Komoka Community Center was built by the community for the community, with a lot of love and support from each and every Komoka resident and so many businesses as well. There is an extra special, deep-rooted love in our community for our Komoka Community Center and Park. I would be remiss if I didn't share an extra special thank you to all the Komoka community, Komoka Kilworth optimists, past and present, that worked so hard over the years to build and create what we have today, and all the memories that so many carry. And a special congratulations on your 50th anniversary in June. Well done, Komoka Kilworth optimists and all your volunteers. In so many ways, this situation has joined us all together even more, and moving forward, may I suggest you continue this momentum and get more actively involved in something in your community. Join the Komoka Kilworth Optimist Club, visit or volunteer at the Komoka Railway Museum, attend a bingo or a craft market, join a sports team, pickleball team, something to continue to show your support in our community and help grow our awesome community spirit even more. I also want to thank Dr. Chant for considering Komoka for his proposal, and to say that we do welcome you and all you would bring to Komoka, just not at our Komoka Community Center location. I will not be supporting a vote to declare the Komoka Community Center and a portion of parkland as surplus, and I ask each of my fellow councillors, mayor and deputy mayor, to please support us and consider a vote against this proposal. Thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair, I apologize to interrupt. I've been advised by staff that we have an additional speaker. I do not have the name of the speaker. It's the daughter of Lisa Scott. We'll bring that individual over now.
Okay, thanks for that.
Hello, everyone. I wasn't expecting to join. I was actually just sitting on the couch the whole time, and members of council, I decided I wanted to speak as well, because as I was sitting and waiting, I was ruffling through all the memories that I have as a young person who went to the Komoka Community Center so many times throughout my life. And I just kind of wanted to share that with you in hopes that this is something you really care about. Because my mom has informed me that not many young people have spoken yet. So I would like to share my piece. I had my grade 8 graduation at the Komoka Community Center. I'm over 20 years old now. I got my first library card at the Komoka Community Center when it was a library. I also saw fireworks at the Komoka Community Center with my sisters, and I sat and watched them in awe because it was one of the coolest things ever. I ate pancake breakfast at the Komoka Community Center, and I absolutely loved it. And I got to hang out with my grandparents and my family who have all been members of the Komoka community for as long as I've been a kid, because we moved here when my little sister was born. I was about 2 years old when we came here. There are so many memories I have, including ones where I hid under a Christmas tree because I was afraid to sit on Santa's lap. these memories are things I'll never forget. They're things I flip through and I see in my childhood photo albums every time I go through, and I can really pinpoint these memories. And there have been so many phenomenal speakers today, and I think what's really clear is that this is a vital part of our community, and there are so many memories on this land that it would be a shame to pave it up and hide these memories and hide these things that mean so much to us and mean so much to my mom and to my grandparents. And I just wanted to share that with you in hopes that this is something you care about, because I want the next generation, I want people who I have gone to school with to be able to share memories like I had with their kids, and memories that they've had, and pass these on to further generations. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm wanting to make sure that we haven't missed somebody.
Through the chair, there are no additional raised hand features at this time. Thank you.
Okay. I will return to the CAO then. If you would please outline what the process is next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair to members of council and the public, I'd like to thank all the delegates this evening. This is an important topic, and it's very important for staff and council to learn and hear all the important points that were raised tonight. It's a lot to ponder. In terms of the next steps, as outlined in the presentation from Mr. Mayers at the beginning of tonight's meeting, there is going to be a special meeting dedicated to this issue in a week's time, so that we can take in all of the comments that were raised this evening, and it gives council an opportunity to take it in and really think through the proposal that's put before them, and then we can move on from there. So in terms of the next steps, there'll be a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday evening.
Council, any questions on that? Okay, seeing none then. If you would please look at April 6, 2022 council agenda, you'll see previous correspondence submissions there. We have a motion that we need to receive those as information, and the motion specifically states that council for the municipality of Middlesex Centre receives correspondence items listed on the April 27th, 2022 council meeting agenda as information. A mover please, and a seconder. Councillor Cates, Councillor Shipley. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, there is no other business. Bylaws. Tonight's bylaw is that is number 7.1 is 2022 number 43, pardon me, being a bylaw to adopt and confirm all the actions and proceedings of the council of the municipality of Middlesex Centre, the council meeting held on April 27th. Is there a mover for that, please, and a seconder? Councillor Heffernan, Councillor Arts, thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay, seeing none, and just before I adjourn, I too will add my thanks to all of the people who took time to prepare remarks, to wait their turn in the queue patiently, and to do their best to observe the time limits. It's still gone on quite a while, but it's important content. Say we've covered everything, physical attributes and mental and economic variables, social, the whole gamut of those. I hope that there has been some clarity in terms of the content, both from the staff presentation side and from the public presentation side. And I hope there's more clarity around the thinking here at this point. Again, thank you all to participated, and we'll take it to the next meeting then. So with that, then the motion for adjournment is that the Council for Middlesex Centre adjourns the April 27th, 2022 meeting at 8:49. Is there a mover, please, and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Heffernan. Is anyone opposed? I may have got the wrong person there. It's okay, you're good with it. All right, I'm looking at hands and I'm reading the wrong name. I'm sorry. No one is opposed, so the meeting is adjourned. Again, thanks council for your time as well, and